Welcome to Leading Organizations That Matter, a podcast about leadership, organizational culture, and how to find meaning and purpose in our work. I'm your host, Ray Spadoni, former healthcare CEO, current consultant, author, and speaker. And today's topic is make sure you know what your board really wants, as in really, really wants. Sometimes when organizations are struggling, trustees will hope to bring in a new CEO who can stir things up a bit, make change, and hopefully alter the trajectory of that organization. Now, as someone who has sat in on nonprofit boards, who has consulted to such groups, and who has served as a CEO for mission-driven organizations, I have observed an interesting phenomenon. Boards will often state that this is their desire, but that desire should be pressure tested. Now, for all the reasons that I detail in my book, Saving Organizations That Matter, organizations that are in decline or which chronically struggle to improve their fate and have to undergo some type of a transformative process, and one that gets down to the root level of the weeds that befall them, I often comment that a more superficial approach will solve the weed problem, but only temporarily. A leader or a CEO candidate will need to understand whether that board has the resolve to participate in and actively support such a transformation. These initiatives are difficult and may lead to a great deal of tension in the organization among board members and with some external constituents. But that tension won't be sufficient reason enough to prematurely abandon the effort. Sometimes you have to power through it. Transformation initiatives often fail because once the going gets tough, there's not enough support for the tough to get going. For example, disaffected or disillusioned employees may cry foul, and some board members may see their own personal interests challenged. And in healthcare settings, clinicians may seek to disrupt the changes that they feel weaken their own position. And some others will have very little tolerance for the risk that these kinds of activities require, taking a shorter term view instead. They would prefer to shave the proverbial tops off the weeds, leaving the roots intact. Thank you very much. So, any leader undertaking such a process will need to understand just how committed the board actually is to the changes that will be required. Now, I'm not suggesting that boards give full and free rein to leaders to do whatever they want, regardless of the consequences. But I am recommending that leaders and their board have a serious and frank discussion at the outset about what may be required of them down the line in order to ultimately succeed. I've worked with a number of organizations that took the time to develop this deeper understanding up front around what the future might hold and what a difference that made to the eventual success of those organizations. Thanks for listening. I hope you'll consider subscribing to this podcast, telling your friends and coworkers about it, and providing a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever your platform of choice is. That will help others to discover it. Please feel free to learn more about me and my work at redsaleadvisors.com.